to you right now. I've met Dr. Shiva. Really, I first recall meeting him after the 2020 election. He had this analysis where he'd discovered this in his election back in Massachusetts prior to the election in the primary, where he saw a pattern in the results that didn't make sense in that election, applied the same formula to the national election and saw the same thing. And we put that up. I mentioned earlier, we put that up at the Gateway Pundit. It just went on fire. And from that point on, we became good friends and highly respect Dr. Shiva. He's the inventor of the email, and he holds 4 degrees from MIT. He's a Fulbright scholar, and it's just a really bright guy. He's got a heck of a history. He stood up, and supported us all in his efforts to really bring out the truth about the 2020 election, bring out the truth about COVID, and then also has been very instrumental in attacking the censorship from big tech against individuals like himself. He's got a great story there, and he is running for president of the United States. So, with no further ado, I'll introduce to you Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. Doctor, welcome to the Joe Hoff Show.
Great to be here, Joe. Hope you and the team there is doing well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. So, where should we start, Doctor?
Well, Joe, you mentioned I'm running for president, and it's a decision that I didn't take lightly. It came from a lot of people over the last 3 years. People saying, "Hey, Dr. Shiva, why don't you run for president?" And we decided to do that. But I think, Joe, probably the best place to start, this sort of discussion is to start in sort of September of 2020. If you recall, you were one of the few news organizations which covered the work I was doing, actually starting in March of 2020. It's probably good to start there, Joe, and then sort of walk through the contributions that we made by what I would say, very importantly, not delaying truth, but telling the truth at the right time. And this is central to, sort of what our campaign's about, but also central to the entire aspect of human health. And at a very broad stroke, whether people know it or not, any American listening to this should know that your children are going to live, are going to die younger than you. This is quite fascinating and quite unfortunate. And this is a trend that's been taking place since 1980. And I want to hone in on that. I'm the only candidate bringing this issue forward. And the solution, and I also have a very important solution for that. But that solution also exposes every other candidate who's running and exposes their irrelevance, because they're the ones who are all part of creating this. So I want to cover that too, Joe. But in that context, I want to start with March of 2020, walk through the many contributions we made to exposing the COVID issue, the pandemic. It was our lawsuit that discovered the fact that there's a backdoor portal to Twitter, and we never stopped fighting on it. And then I want to really expose, and I want people to have an awakening, true awakening here, not just call something an awakening, because awakenings occur when you tell the truth at the right time and then you act on it. And just like I exposed the issue with Fauci back in March of 2020, you were, again, one of the first guys to cover that when I exposed it, the issues with the election systems, the issues, with the backdoor portal, and then traversing it after I got back on Twitter. Recently, the fact that Elon Musk, we're at censorship 10.0. Elon Musk is, what I say, a complete scumbag. Exposed the fact that the elites in my view are coming at what I call version 2.0, and people like Tucker, people like Robert Kennedy, people like Musk, and these folks are essentially consolidating power to confuse the American white working class conservatives back into the establishment. And it's a recurrent process in American history that's very, very unfortunate, but is part of liberal imperialism. And again, I have to do the dirty work of calling these guys out again, Joe. So I want to really, hopefully, awaken people to this with facts and what's going on. I did back in 2020, because it seems like people almost want to get abused, and the call years, if you look at my track record, it's been over 100%, but at least 100% in calling these guys out at the right time. So that's what I'd like to start, Joe.
Yeah.
We can sort of
Great.
rewind.
Well, let's do that. Yeah, let's go back to 2020 and with COVID and such. I was in Hong Kong at the time, and I remember we started coming out too. I remember I came out with an article in mid-March of 2020 where I said, "Hey, these numbers don't make sense. The WHO's commingling numbers, and really within 10 minutes could see how this COVID, the actual mortality rate was not going to be 3.4%. It was going to be closer to the flu, 0.06%. The numbers, but the WHO was bastardizing that number to scare the entire world. And I got doxxed by Media Matters for that report, and it led to some challenges. And I ended up coming back to the States and retiring from this company, a great company that I'd worked at for 20 years. And I guess at that time too, you were starting to talk about, I guess, Fauci. And so why don't you tell us, briefly about that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, very sort of preamble to this is, I think, Joe, you gave it in the introduction. I have 4 degrees from MIT. My field is in the field of systems biology. I've dedicated most of my life to scientific research in health and medicine, and at the same time being a ground activist since I was a kid, because I broke with both wings of the establishment because I realized they both serve the same master. So I've had this history of a deep desire to understand politics and, frankly, a professional scientist and an engineer and inventor. Now, in 2019, Joe, just to go back 6 months before that, in November of 2019, I was invited to give the keynote prestige lecture presentation at the National Science Foundation. They typically only choose one scientist. And the discussion I had given was on the modern science of the immune system. It was well attended by 200 scientists and engineers. And the system I laid out, Joe, is I basically told them, look, when the 1962 Kennedy Vaccination Act, it was John Kennedy who signed into act the 1962 Vaccination Act. And when he signed that in 62, that was based on a 1915, okay, a 47-year-old understanding of the immune system at that time. And that immune system was very rudimentary. And it basically said, you have your innate system and your adaptive system. And the concept of a vaccine was you could circumvent your innate immune system, give a jab, and voila, you get antibodies, and then you're protected, okay? So it was based on this very rudimentary understanding of the immune system that John Kennedy signed the 1962 Vaccination Act. Starting at that point, what I gave in my lecture, Joe, was I said that many, many injuries took place. And by 1986, instead of getting rid of that act, which was basically a one-size-fits-all medicine act based on a rudimentary understanding of the immune system, what happened is they created, and by the way, the 1962 act is what created all those corrupt agencies, Joe, right? So his brother, Ted Kennedy, with Waxman and others, passed the National Vaccine Injury Program, which basically, and Reagan was forced to sign it because it was shoved as a rider in a bill on the budget bill. And that act basically, that injury program basically created more bureaucracy, Joe, in classic liberal imperialism model, right? They created a whole nother bureaucracy which said that we're going to have a vaccine court, and the only way, and that indemnified, which means protected all big pharma companies. And that again was supported by another Kennedy. And that meant that you could not sue big pharma, that you had to go to this little vaccine court, and your liability was around 250K. It was capped, all right? So again, you see what I'm saying? They didn't get rid of the 1962 Vaccination Act because new science, and as I presented at this conference, has shown that the immune system is very complex. We have the microbiome, we have the vagus nerve, the gut-brain axis, with the interferon system, which I shared at that important scientific lecture. This demands that anytime you take anything into your body, it has to be a relation between the doctor and the patient because it's too complicated. Everyone agreed, Joe, all right? Now, in January, I led one of the biggest protests in New Jersey with 5,000 mothers, because I'm from Jersey, against vaccine mandates. And we were on the ground, Joe. Kennedy and Del Bigtree Kennedy came in on his SUV, okay? And he was critiquing me because he was saying, oh, we have to negotiate on the back room. We can't get people all angry. My model always was, Joe, you go on the ground, you do get people angry and you scare the hell out of these people. And we stopped that bill on the floor. They were afraid to pass it. But that was my first interaction with Kennedy, and I'll come back to that. But in March of 2020, you remember that tweet, early March, you guys posted, I said, this That's when COVID hit, pandemic, quote unquote, hit, right? And I said, this will destroy economies, destroy, people's health, and create mandated medicine. I called it right there. And
Wow.
and it was right there because I could see, as a scientist, as someone who does the immune system work every day, this whole thing was bullshit. And I was very, very vociferous about this because I could see where the trajectory was going, because they wanted vaccine mandates for other childhood vaccines up until 2019. I was heavily involved in that fight. And I felt, as I was watching the Children's Health Fund Defense Camp playing this backroom game, which never really got them anywhere. They lost everywhere they went. I always believed in militant bottoms-up protests, which is what history always shows has worked. So in March of 2020, I called that out, Joe. And at the same time, I realized these Kennedy guys were always doing these backroom negotiations. And I realized that when I looked at Robert Kennedy's background, this is in 2020, he had endorsed Hillary Clinton 3 times. I mean, you're talking about a woman who's as vaccine mandate you can get. Even as early as 2016, he had endorsed her. Not once, not twice, but public endorsements, open, writing the New York Times. He then, in my own campaign in 2020, because I was running for Senate, as you know, his nephew, Joe Kennedy, was for massive vaccine mandates. And he raised money for him and endorsed him. And remember, Hillary Clinton is pro-Monsanto, and she's pro-GMO. And I had known Robert Kennedy because I did a movie with him years ago, and I saw his ability to speak from both sides of his mouth, which is classic democratic liberal imperialism, right? The liberal imperialists just know how to massage people and make everything ambiguous. The right Republicans at least say, hey, we're going to go blow up Vietnam, right? Barry Goldwater. The left always says, well, we're going to do it like this. Basically, they screw people in a different way, but make them swallow the bitter pill. So I had to do this dirty custodial work of exposing Kennedy. And I said, look, he endorsed Hillary Clinton. He's speaking from both sides of his mouth. And in March of 2020, Kennedy was supporting lockdowns, strict lockdowns, lock, step, and barrel with Fauci. And everyone can go look at it. And he was saying, oh, and by the way, this will be good for climate change. Okay? This guy's nuts.
Wow.
Right? So I had to, so all these wealthy, bougie women who want to be with Bobby Kennedy, and they call him Bobby as though he's his friend, right? Who fund him because they all made mistakes with their vaccine and their kids, unfortunately, right? I lost 20% of their followers. Initially, everyone loved me. Oh, we got an MIT scientist fighting with them. But I had to do that dirty work, Joe, and expose him. And then Kennedy did the classic Kennedy smear campaign. He called me a vaccine maker, Joe.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Yeah.
I'm a vaccine maker. He said, I work with Bill Gates and I work with the Clintons. I mean, the guy's a total freaking scumbag, because on our EchoNet website, we get software for a reduced rate. He said, oh, he's a partnership with Microsoft. Unbelievable. I sued Kennedy.
Wow.
He kept running away from service. We're still going to get him. But this is Robert Booby effing Kennedy. That's what I call him. All right. So I've been on the ground with these guys. And if you look at the history of Kennedys, they're mafia. Okay. John F. Kennedy's been made to be this great hero, but let's really look at it. Seymour Hersh said the guy was reckless. He almost got us into, multiple imperialist wars and almost into a nuclear war. But the Kennedys have great photography, and they're made to be as though they're heroes, but they're false gods. But anyway, March of 2020 was interesting because I had to expose what I call the not so obvious establishment. And I was the first one to call out Fauci. And everyone can go look at my Twitter feed then. It's there in black and white. And why was I able to call him out with such confidence, Joe? Because I've been involved in medicine and writing papers, with the #1 institution in the world. And I knew Fauci was another scumbag. Go look at his history. He's one of the priesthood, right? He wheedled his way in since Reagan. And he initially protected Robert Gallo, who came up with a fake correlation of HIV and AIDS, right? And which Gallo's research was proven to be fraudulent. That's when Fauci came in. And this is, again, everyone can just do a little bit of research. Others have written about this. People like Duisberg, one of the leading researchers who completely decoupled the AIDS and HIV narrative. But Fauci's been involved for a long time. And as a serious researcher on the immune system, I knew that the HIV/AIDS stuff was nonsense, and I could see this was sort of that version 2.0. So we did #FireFauci. We, on our Shiva for Senate site, we raised a petition, and I literally, Joe, we have our bus out there. It's an old rickety bus. Me and our volunteers, we drove that bus with over 100,000 signatures to Trump. And if you go look at March 23rd of 2020, I wrote a letter to Trump. I said, please fire this guy. He's an incompetent scientist. And I said, furthermore, do not shut down the country. Follow the principles of precision and personalized medicine, which is what the NIH had agreed to in 2003, which is also the base of my PhD work, which is one size doesn't fit all. So if you have truly people who have a pre-existing condition, right, and are sick, fine, quarantine them. And those people who are normal people, give them vitamin D3, the quercetin, the zinc, and the iodine. I was the one who put out that protocol, Joe. Other people took my protocol and they started packaging it. I never made a penny off that. Those videos, I think we must have done 50 of them, went viral. So I gave a solution, saved millions of people's lives. I still get calls every day. Thank you, Dr. Shiva. I was in the ICU. I took vitamin C IV protocol. Thank you. You saved my family's life. So think about what's going on there, Joe. You have this immense bullshit going on with Fauci. I, as an activist and a scientist, am running the Fire Fauci campaign. I'm driving a freaking bus for 36 hours. The lockdown was there. We couldn't even get a hotel. We had to sleep on the bus. Delivered those signatures. Marla Maples contacted me. She said, oh, you know, me and Tiffany, we love all the stuff you do. She and I did a podcast. You can look at it back then. She delivered that handwritten letter to Trump. I got a call from their deputy secretary. And I said, you got to get rid of this guy. I said, this is nonsense. And I'm a scientist. I know what I'm talking about. And I gave the protocol, Joe. Why didn't Trump, using that bully pulpit, tell people to take vitamin D3? Tell people to take IV vitamin C. Then that same, in 2019, Joe, we ran the first vaccine conference showing how the one size fit all didn't work. And in June of that year, I ran the first mask conference saying that there is no need for mask mandates. I had done another body of scientific research showing that when you put the mask, what it does to the mouth microbiome and how it can cause all these other diseases, particularly for young people. So think about what we did. 2019, we're exposing one size fits all medicine. We're not saying vax. I think the talk was beyond vax and anti-vax. Boost the immune system. I must have done another 50 videos educating people on the immune system, why you need to protect the immune system. So all of that was going on. Where was Tucker Carlson? Nowhere to be found. Where was Rand Paul? Nowhere to be found. He waited a year later to use our hashtag #FireFauci in emails to get donations. None of these people were there, Joe. You guys were the only ones who covered my work. The only one. So it's very important to tell the truth at the right time. And as
absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? But
I was just going to say, just a matter of time so we get all these key points in. This is amazing stuff that you're sharing. At this time too, you decided to run for Senate in Massachusetts. Is that?
I was running for Senate as a Republican. So in the midst of running for Senate, in the midst of running my company, Cytosolve, we're also attacking Fauci, going to demonstrations, right? Exposing Fauci on the ground. I must have ran 3 major demonstrations here, right? Against Fauci. All of this stuff is occurring in 2020, Joe. So it's being an activist, being a scientist, doing videos like this over and over again. It was like, maybe I got 2 hours sleep a day in those days,
Wow.
So that was in the heart of 2020. And then now let's move forward to September of 2020, which was a Republican primary. As everyone should know, very simply, we had 3,000 volunteers on the ground. We're running against, we were headed to be the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate, and it would have been against Markey, okay? The Democrats are running this guy, Joe Kennedy, who was for vaccine mandates. Robert Kennedy again came here and in Hollywood and endorsed his own nephew, knowing I'm against vaccine mandates, and supported him, raised money for him. So that's Robert effing Kennedy, okay? People should wake up to this. The guy says whatever needs to be said. He's a fake hero. Now, September of 2020, Joe, as you know, the word on the street in Massachusetts was Dr. Shiva is going to win by a landslide. The Republican establishment found some other guy to run against me who didn't have one lawn sign up, Joe. We had 25,000 lawn signs up. We'd raised $2 million donation, which is pretty high for a Republican primary in Massachusetts. And guess what happens on September 2020? The results come in. I win by 10 points in the hand-counted paper ballot county called Franklin County. Everywhere else it was 60-40, 60-40, 60-40. That's when I had to open up my eyes that maybe we live also in a third world country here. I did the first analysis, exposed the fact that the machines can do vote flipping. It's called the weighted race feature. And you remember those videos? I did those videos, exposed it, filed a lawsuit. And in September 25th of 2020, I put out a tweet because when I filed my lawsuit, when I went to the Secretary of State, when I knew they cheated me, I said, I want the ballot images. In the machines, when a ballot goes in, it creates an image, which the AI uses to calculate your vote. When I asked for those ballot images, Joe, they said, oh, we deleted them. Well, I tweeted that out. I said, Massachusetts government violated federal law. They deleted ballot images. That went viral. I get shut down off Twitter for the first time ever. I've never been turned off Twitter. I had to go in federal court. We moved our campaign to a write-in campaign, if you remember. So I'm still a bona fide U.S. Senate candidate, now fighting against the Republicans and Democrats. The Republicans had stolen my election, not the Democrats in Massachusetts. They colluded. And we go into federal court, and I had to represent myself. No other lawyer wanted to take on the government of Massachusetts. And in federal court, I went against 3 Harvard lawyers of the state. And in cross-examination, it was my cross-examination that discovered that the government of the United States has set up a backdoor portal into Twitter and to every major social media company. When we exposed, the judge was freaked out. He gave us the terms of our preliminary injunction, which was quite extraordinary. Now, all of this I exposed to Tucker Carlson. And I have all the emails, and people go to winbackfreedom.com. I put it out there, open transparency. What did Tucker do? Nothing on October 15th. Nothing on October 30th when he won that lawsuit. He's freaking sat on it. He's a jackass.
Yeah.
He did nothing.
Well, that's about the same time that he sat on this Hunter Biden information.
Yeah,
that was
sent on October 30th, 2020, on that same day is when he told people, let's go easy on Hunter. And people go, look at that. So Tucker Carlson is part of the intelligence network. He's part of the deep state. Now he's doing his major new grift with his ally, Elon Musk, and all of these guys. And I'll come back to that. But bottom line is that was the time, October of 2020, Joe, everyone should have been over it. Again, you guys were the only ones who covered it. Bannon covered it, okay? Only 2 guys. And we did our own videos. But the bottom line is we had exposed that the government has a backdoor portal to Twitter. The government deletes ballot images. And since that time, on my own time, again, 2 hours of sleep, we did the Michigan analysis, which went viral. We did the analysis in Florida.
Yeah.
I became the election integrity guy, not getting a penny for any of this, Joe. And Mark Meadows called me here on November 3rd saying, oh, Dr. Shiva, how can we help you? I said, Mark, give us data. He didn't do anything. The Trump campaign didn't give us any data. However, they ran the election fraud grift, made $500 million, and I don't know where that went into it. Where that went. In fact, I asked Trump, where did that go when I met with him? But the bottom line is we exposed the real issues, which was chain of custody. And then in Arizona, we exposed the signature verification issue. Now, fast forward, February 1st of 2021, actually in November 4th, by that court order, I'm back on Twitter. And on February 1 of 2021, I once again shared those emails where the government exposes that they deleted ballot images. Boom, Joe, this time I'm deplatformed for good. They violated the judge's order. I go back into court. The judge orders Twitter into court. It was the only court case where Twitter had to come in. It's documented. Now it's me against 7 lawyers. The 4 from the state, the NASID, and the 4 we talked about, and the 3 from Twitter. My briefs were so good, Joe, that the vice chairman of Wilmer and Hale, Twitter's counsel, said, we don't believe you wrote your own briefs. So I had learned how to become my own lawyer, Joe. And in that time in May, that is when I discovered another big thing, which Matt Taibbi stole from me, which he should shame on him. All these Twitter files guys came from my work, where we discovered the entire censorship network that was created at Harvard and Belfer School, with Stanford, with Pierre Omidyar, the entire network. And I did a beautiful diagram on this. The judge just simply wanted to put me back on Twitter, was trying to buy me out, and wanted me to drop all my claims against the government. I refused to do that. He wanted to censor me, Joe, and then he sealed our lawsuit. Sealed the lawsuit, Joe. And then what I did was I filed the lawsuit with the one claim, but I got the diagram in, which is what every grifter has stolen. Every grifter has stolen our work and purposely not given us credit. And why does credit matter, Joe? Because it came from me, an independent guy of Republicans and Democrats. They don't want to give us those views, Joe, because we're creating an independent movement. And that is the heart of the issue. Tucker didn't want to cover us because, oh, this guy's not in one camp. If I put him on TV, people are going to realize the grift that they've been doing. So you see, we expose a backdoor portal. I was thrown off. We expose the election system's integrity issues, the real issues of chain of custody and signature verification, not the grifter issues, which actually subsumed the real work. It's really disgusting what they did. October 30th, 2022, Joe, to be respectful of your time, is remember, I didn't back down. So I filed my lawsuit with the one amended claim and I walked away. I did not want to simply go on Twitter. And that's what they wanted me to do. They were trying to buy me out, Joe. 99%. And my lawyer at the time was saying, you'll be the first guy. You'll have all this fame, Shiva. I said, I don't want that. The government must pay for their crimes because I believe in the First Amendment, Joe. That's why my parents came from India here. October 20th, 2022, I wrote a scathing blog post exposing Musk. I mean, come on, everyone. It's clear Musk is the honeypot because if you look at it right now, the left and the liberal elites do not give a damn about the First Amendment. They never did, okay? The only people who care about the First Amendment or have it is 4% of the world's population, which is the American people. Now, out of that, the tip of the spear of that is guys like me, immigrants who came here to value it, and the American white working class who still has their guns and the Second Amendment, right? And they value that, and they will defend the First Amendment. So the goal is to blunt them, Joe. So they bring in this doofus called Elon Musk. Well, this guy, go look at his history. He comes from South Africa where 1% ruled 99%. In his epigenetics is, a few know better than the rest. Number two, he's a big climate change guy, climate scam guy. He's praised Greta Thunberg. The other thing, let's look at the fundamentals here. When he gets brought in, Joe, we have to understand the actual follow the money. For $5.7 billion, Musk is a government frontman, whether it's for China or for the US. He's a government frontman. Write that down, everyone. That's what this guy is. SpaceX, at minimum $5.7 billion from the government. Starlink satellite, spying on all of us. That's what this is about. He's a government frontman. You have to be like this with government, Joe, to put up a satellite, right? Imagine what effort it takes just for you to get a permit to do a kitchen in your home, right? This guy's putting up thousands of satellites. Government relationship is like this. Tesla would never have been profitable had it not been for those $1.5 billion in government credits. When they got that profitability, that's when the valuation became $600 billion. Twitter has indemnity. What does that mean? You can sue the New York Times. They can sue Gateway Pundit, right, Joe? If you guys write something false, you can sue the New York Times.
Sure.
But you cannot sue Twitter or Facebook or these social media platforms. Why? Because they have Section 230 immunity. Silicon Valley negotiated that with Congress. Well, what does Section 230 mean from a money standpoint? Well, those social media companies get 10 times valuation on revenue. If New York Times make $5 billion in revenue, they're only worth $5 billion, 1x. Twitter makes $5 billion, they're worth 10x, Joe. 10x, because they're deemed a different kind of company which gets Section 230. For that Section 230 immunity, what's happened is the social media companies have done an unholy alliance. They will give government access to censor people. And that's what we showed. That unholy alliance was used to censor a US Senate candidate, me. No one talked about it. This is the most foundational issue in American history. Guess what happens? I get put on Twitter because Musk thought he was going to buy me off. And I get put on Twitter, and the first tweet I do, Joe, I said, hey, Elon, why don't you make me your CEO? You can go look at it. That got like 20 million views, Joe, went viral. But after that, I said, are you going to take down the backdoor portal? And you can see between the time I started critiquing him, and in fact, Clayton Morris of Redacted asked him in an open Twitter space in late December, he goes, hey, Dr.SHIVA's Ayyadurai's lawsuit exposes backdoor portal. Are you going to remove it? And this freaking liar acts stupid. Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know. That sounds like Big Brother. I'll get back to you. He never got back. So the backdoor portal still exists between government and Twitter, between all these social media companies. But now we're in censorship 10.0. Since I got on, Joe, you can literally see the numbers. I went from 500,000 views per day on my tweets down to 5,000 views per day now, Joe. Why? Because I'm the only one who has to do this dirty job of exposing this guy. Every tweet is, when are you going to take down the portal? When are you going to take down the portal? When are you going to take down the portal? And as I increase those tweets critiquing him, Joe, my views have gone down like this, exponentially downwards. Meanwhile, he is driving views, paying off people like Robert F. Kennedy or Tucker Carlson, the people that I've critiqued. So what he's doing is a quid pro quo. This is worse than what Dorsey did. Dorsey just threw you off. What Musk is doing is a multi-tier strategy. Guys like me who expose that he's not a free speech absolute, or not even a free speech guy, we get shuttled and put into a digital cage. And furthermore, what he's doing, Joe, the reason he put me back on is all of my followers, you can do what's called predictive analytics. This is really censorship 10.0, which means you build a profile of my followers, you find out others who may become my followers, and you send them, you misdirect them to the people that I'm exposing. And that's what's going on, Joe. So, but on top of it, what's really disgusting is all the conservative, obsequious grifters, be it Dinesh D'Souza, be it, James Woods. James Woods put out a tweet after Musk hired the WEF guy. Oh my God, I guess the party's over, something like that. And I go, James, the party never began. That tweet started going viral. James Woods then deleted his tweet. The next day, he's thanking Musk for giving him 100,000 followers. This is what's going on, Joe. Musk is buying off his ass kissers. Excuse my language. That's what he's doing. And it's disgusting to watch the conservative grifters bootlick him. And it's the same like 2020, Joe. I'm calling it out now. We are heading into a worse model of censorship than ever before. I mean, after I did all this, then he brings in this WF woman. She was pro-vaccine mandates. And then you can see people trying to backtrack. Dinesh D'Souza tries to, she's not that bad. I mean, it's sickening. These conservative grifters are sickening. They are bowing down to him to get views, to remain on this platform called Twitter. They're not patriots. It's really disgusting.
You know what? Great analysis, by the way. Thank you so much for sharing all that. The thing that grabs me too is just the fact that here we had Congress give this benefit to the drug manufacturers over vaccines, and now they give this benefit to big tech with censorship issues. And it seems like really ultimately some of this stuff leads all the way back to the U.S. government and what they've done to create these monsters.
Well, Joe, you have to think about it this way. It is the latest term I've been using is not the swamp; it's a swarm. In system science, by the way, Joe, the solution to this is everyday people becoming conscious of the dynamics of how a few set of people are able to subjugate billions of people. And that's the knowledge of system science. The elites learned this. And when people go to truthfreedomhealth.com, we have a movement now. We have close to 500 million people who heard about us. We have about 400,000 students who've gone through this. They're on the ground now. But what we are teaching people is how to become a warrior and a scholar with these fundamental principles. And what they're learning, Joe, is to recognize that when you ask this probably the most fundamental human question, how is it a few people can control 8 billion people? And it comes down to that it's not any one person. It's not like, some people say, oh, it's this person, it's the banks, it's this. They're a swarm. It's a multiracial, decentralized, interconnected swarm. It involves, on the one hand, government. It involves the 100 university presidents. It involves the top 100 NGOs, right? From WEF to Clinton Global Initiative, Gates Foundation. It involves, think tanks. Those are all the people involved in the power. Then, associated with them, they all play on the same golf course, is the top 2,000 CEOs, right? You have the major investment banks and the investment bankers who run them. And then you have, the central banks. And then the front end of all this, Joe, is you have Hollywood, you have the social media influencers who are selected. Tucker Carlson is leaving as one grift. And by the way, let's be clear, Joe, Tucker Carlson is not a martyr. You and I both know that he didn't do shit for election systems when this stuff was going on. But then when he saw the conservatives doing it, he started talking enough to get views. But internally, Joe, he was writing stuff bashing it. He was saying, this is all a joke. That's why Fox got screwed, because of him, legitimately. they would have had to pay 1.5 billion. They now only have to pay 750 million. And now he's acting like he's a martyr. I'm sorry, Tucker, you're not a martyr. You're very close with the swarm. You have close relation with Hunter Biden. Just like you said, Joe, his, he got him to write his son's recommendation letter. These people, so you have the front end, Hollywood, the media companies, the new social media influencers, and then the real fangs that they have, Joe, are the obvious establishment, like the McConnells, the Bushes, right? But the not so obvious establishment, like the Trump. I like Trump, right? But he let me down big time. He's part of this, golden plated toilet seat culture, okay? And Kennedy's. And so they have the not so obvious establishment, which is used to blunt right now the American working people so they don't build these independent movements, Joe. That's the fundamental analysis. And that's why our campaign is telling people, look, you finally have one of you. That's what you're looking at with me. I didn't come from a Kennedy clan, bootlegging stuff. I didn't come from, sitting on golf courses all day. I came from everyday people in Newark, New Jersey, bottoms up. Everything I have, I've earned, Joe, like everyone listening here. And it's time that we start selecting one of us and start having self-respect, because none of this stuff is going to change. And for the first time, people have a real choice with me. All of those other candidates, Joe, they all know each other. They're all, this guy Vivek, that kind of brown guy to give a new face, okay? They're all interconnected. And that's what we're facing, Joe. We've got to break from the swarm.
Hey, great stuff, Dr. Shiva. So happy to have you on. We'll have to have you back because there's so much more that we could chat about. But thank you, and congratulations and good luck on your campaign as well. We really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for all your work. Be well.
Thank you. Thank you. And this is Joe Hoff Show. We'll be back tomorrow.
So let me, that was TNT Radio with Joe Hoff from Gateway Pundit. I just did that analysis for everyone. Look, everyone's got to remember, as just I shared with Joe, you look at my history and you look at the entire history I've gone through, it's always been where the words match the deeds. None of these other guys' words match their deeds. So everyone listening, you have a real opportunity right now to do what's right and stop whining, we got to choose the lesser of two evils. Independent candidates can't win. The winning is you. The winning is you getting off your butt and becoming an activist on the ground. That's how we win. It's not about winning this election at this point in history. That's all a game. It's all elections or selections. The winning is you getting off your butt. That is what it's about. And even like Jason's saying, even if you're outside of the United States, you can support. You can help us start making phone calls. You can be on social media, downloading our videos and putting them back up. But that's the opportunity for everyone listening. This is a paradigm changing movement. And it's about you. It's not about me. It's about empowering you to get on the ground. So I encourage all of you to go to truthfreedomhealth.com. Get the knowledge you need. Become a Truth, Freedom, and Health warrior. It's right here. It took me 50 years to learn everything I've shared with you. I want to make it easier so you can learn it in 3 hours. Learn the knowledge of system science. Become a warrior scholar. If you're in the United States or wherever you are, if you're in the United States, you can get on the ground and be part of this historic campaign. You can start helping us get on the ballot in every state. That's what you can do. Let me play for you our anthem video so we'll inspire you why I'm running for president of the United States. But this is about you. It's not about me. I just happen to be a very small catalyst who's figured a lot of this stuff out, and I'm here to educate you. But it's about time that you guys rise up, and we have to shatter the swarm.
Who would have ever thought I'd be running for president of the United States of America? I was born a low-caste untouchable in India's caste system, a system of aristocracy, oppression, and racism. My name is Dr.SHIVA Ayyadurai. I'm an MIT PhD, a Fulbright scholar, a scientist, engineer, entrepreneur, and inventor. My family and I left India to come to America on my 7th birthday. I grew up in the working-class neighborhoods of New Jersey, playing baseball, mowing lawns, painting houses, and coding software. My friends and neighbors are blacks, Italians, Irish, people of all races. As a 14-year-old, I wrote 50,000 lines of software code to create the world's first email system and was awarded the first U.S. copyright for email, recognizing me as its official inventor at a time when copyright was the only way to protect software inventions. I did that long before I ever came to MIT, revealing that big innovations can occur anytime, any place by anybody. Growing up, I saw politicians dividing us by race and religion in both America and India, to have us fighting each other while they remained safe in their gated communities and in their playgrounds of Hollywood, Martha's Vineyard, and Silicon Valley. I'm a fighter. I fought racism and exposed their imperialist wars, fought for workers, and put my life on the line against global corruption. I never wanted to run for political office. All that changed when I saw working Americans as never before being duped by the establishment and the not-so-obvious establishment. Across left and right, we were being sold out and made to forget why we came to America and why America existed. Lawyers, academics, billionaires, celebrities, and politicians, elites, Clintons, Kennedys, Bidens, Obamas, Bushes, black and white have hijacked America. They printed trillions for their friends. They delivered crumbling infrastructure, corruption, and racism. They've transferred trillions to themselves, dividing black and white, fear-mongering, and fake science. Lockdowns and censorship, dirty air, food, and water, pushing drugs upon us, making us sicker. We've been sold out. One set of rules for them and another for us. We deserve a warrior with a history of courage in putting everything on the line for you, who believes in you, not them, who has created a movement bottoms up for truth, freedom, health. I've exposed their lies at the right time, never waiting until it was popular. I've exposed their false gods who exist to lead you back to them. I've exposed their fake science of lockdowns and masking and provided you solutions to fight them and win and protect your immune system, saving millions. I exposed Fauci, galvanized the Fire Fauci campaign when others remained silent. When they stole our election, we sued the government and Twitter in our historic 2020 federal lawsuit, exposing in bare view the government and big tech censorship infrastructure, the unholy alliance between government and social media companies. Where was Elon and his grifters? They stood by the sidelines and did nothing. They did not use their megaphones to help us when it could have made a big difference. Now our movement grows for truth, freedom, health, independent of all of them. Every day, millions are learning the science of systems, the knowledge the elites do not want you to have, so you may learn how to think, stand up, and fight, independent of the establishment of left and right and their fake heroes. Now it's time for you to join the movement, to win back America, to win back truth, win back freedom, win back your health. That's why I'm running for President of the United States. This race is about you. This race is about truth, freedom, health versus power, profit, control. We've had enough. They think we'll fall in line and vote again for their lawyers, celebrities, billionaires, and chosen ones from above. We choose our heroes from below, from the rank and file, who do what is right at the right time, not when it's convenient and popular. They can never represent us. What America needs is a movement by the working people, for the working people, who are educated, organized, decentralized, and fight for independence from their systems of control. And that movement exists. It's ready for you. We don't need them. We need us to go bottoms up, neighbor to neighbor. My journey, your journey are all the same. It's our time. It's time we had one of us. It's time to win back truth, freedom, health, to win back America. Be part of this historic movement, all the way to our victory on November 5th, 2024. If you're an American citizen, pledge your vote now for Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, the independent candidate for U.S. President. No matter where you live, you can be a part of this. Volunteer as little as 20 minutes a day. Don't delay. This is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, and I approve this message, paid for by Dr. Shiva for President.
All right, everyone. Tonight we have at 8 p.m. By the way, every Thursday at 11 a.m. and 8 p.m. we do open houses. So you can go to vashiva.com/orientation and come to an open house so we can have more of a discussion one-on-one with people. So I hope you guys take advantage of that. Again, what are the things you can do? Number one, go to Shiva for President, donate, volunteer, so we can work with you, get you on the ground. Go to truthfreedomhealth.com and become a warrior scholar. This will give you the tools, the educational tools. Those are the things you can actively do. We're not asking anything more. You can do this right from the comfort of your own home. You can learn, you can help make phone calls, but you can get a decent, very powerful, not only a decent, probably the only place that you can get an education on how systems work and how we can destroy them for the advancement of truth, freedom, health. So anyway, that's what I recommend all you guys do, and get involved, get off your butts. There's no reason to complain. The movement for truth, freedom, and health is here. Our campaign, Shiva for President, here. There's been nothing like this ever. And so it's an opportunity for everyone here to participate. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your kind wishes. What I really want is all of you to get involved, okay? Get involved, get involved, get involved, right? You can help in small ways, large ways, but get educated, or as I keep saying,
get enslaved. Okay, get educated or be enslaved. All right, everyone. Thank you. Be the light. And again, come to our open house, which will be taking place tonight at 8 p.m. The town hall is going to be on the environment. I'm going to teach people how you can shop locally, on a budget so you can eat healthy foods. Our campaign on the environment is going to teach you how to do that, right? There's no like, oh, get me elected and then we're going to do something. We know the entire infrastructure is corrupt to the core. Ultimately, we have to take matters into our own hands and have responsibility for ourselves. Thank you, everyone. Be well, be the light.